This is the Basketball Show with Shane the Hammer Heel. What they gonna say next?
Yes, hello everyone, this is the Basketball Show, and boy do we have a packed episode today. It's all thanks to TCL Mobile, 2K23 and UPCOZ. Joe and Hammer back on the desk. Shout out to Nathan Maddie though for keeping our seats warm. We've been away for a couple of weeks. Hammer.
Good job, boys. Well done.
I've missed you. I've missed my Basketball Show family.
Yeah, miss you too. And you're just gallivanting around doing your tennis thing. Don't forget your roots though.
I definitely won't. Busy
Basketball
working
person.
at the Aussie Open. It was good. We don't take ourselves too seriously, as all of our viewers know. However, we do have to address a couple of things because a lot happens.
Address?
In 2
Address
weeks.
sounds a bit serious, doesn't it?
Well, okay. I want to know why you're not on the sidelines for the Flames.
Well, I'm sure at some stage that'll come out. But right now, you know I can't say anything, Joe. I'm getting messages from journos all over the place. I can't say anything. My hands are tied. At some stage I'll be able to talk.
Are you okay?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Okay, and
Thank you for caring.
Shai's okay?
Shai's doing well.
Okay.
And hopefully you'll see her soon too.
Okay, perfect. See, I think that's all I needed to know coming in today.
Yep.
And
Good.
the rest we'll find out in due course. As I mentioned, packed show. Let's get straight into it. Let's get into our TCL starting five. Round 17 in the NBL was obviously Pride Round, all
Yes.
about diversity and inclusion.
Where's our t-shirts, by the way?
I know,
I'll
we should
rock
have
one of
some
those
fun
t-shirts.
Colour
Come on,
rainbows
Director
and all
Dave,
that.
bring it on. Let's go.
We've got to talk about Cairns first. They opted out as a group. They were all asked individually whether they wanted to take part. A number of them said yes, a few said no, and so as a group they decided
Religious
as a collective.
reasons, is it?
Religious reasons.
Okay.
Tim Suarez at the Kings also opted out, but the rest of his team
Was that
opted
reported?
in. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Didn't see that.
But for the most part, I think it was a great success. A lot of awareness raised and just a whole lot of fun too. I felt like the energy across the round has been really good.
I've got to say, I find it a little bit hypocritical because you respect everyone's beliefs and what they have, but when you've got gambling companies splashed all over the ads and the court and beer companies and alcohol and everything else, I think picking and choosing when you actually go that way is disappointing, but everyone has their rights. I think well done to the NBL for this. I want to talk about the Trevor Torrance video.
Perth did it really, really well.
Perth did it unbelievable, and so did Trevor Torrance. So well done to Perth for giving him that forum. And you know, I watched it a number of times. I showed my kids, and you know, Trevor Torrance. It would have been tough for him in the 80s and 90s going through this. And you listen to, you know, what he was carrying, and I love the end of it when he said, you know, how his teammates supported him and never asked him anything, put him under pressure, but they were right by his side and all the rest of it. And him even saying, you know, this is almost like his chance to come out, even though he came out a long time ago, as he said, but and praising Isaac Humphries too. I just thought it was fantastic.
A beautiful interview. If you haven't had a chance to have a look at it, it's on the Wildcats social media, so do go and have a look.
Well done, Trevor Torrance.
Yes, indeed. We've got to talk about Harry Froling. A terrible news to read about. Terrible for him. You've really got to feel for the family as well. Still, obviously, no word about what's happened. Shane posted on social media yesterday that they're unable to talk about anything because police are involved. There's an investigation ongoing, which is completely understandable.
So that's normal, you can't talk about things.
Yes.
Shout out to the Frolings. Obviously, I've been close to the whole family for a long time. And
he's posted on social media. We don't know how he is at this point, but it was good to at least hear from him.
Sounds positive, right?
I hope so.
Compared to what it could have been.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so we wish him a speedy recovery and hopefully see him out on the court again soon. The New Zealand Breakers, for the first time since 2018, are into the NBL's postseason.
Yes.
So pleased for them. And the vision of Maor after they win over Melbourne United over the weekend and just how much it meant to him. He's been manifesting the number 16, which is the 16 wins needed to make the playoffs. And this is him afterwards. He just needed to take a moment for himself, so emotional. And it just shows what it means. It's amazing.
Well, he's been, when he was an assistant coach, he's the most emotional assistant coach we've ever seen. He just lives and breathes it. So
he's one of the most emotional head coaches we've ever seen.
Well, no, I'm saying then he took that as an assistant coach to a head coach and running the sidelines, but you see he lives and breathes the game. So passionate about what he does. The success they've had, and I tell you, they are the biggest challenge for the Sydney Kings. Now, the Sydney Kings are still title favourites, but he has done a tremendous job. They have got a very, very good team, and well done to him. You love seeing those sort of videos.
Most definitely. Scott Roth as well after their win over Perth.
The big fella.
He was
galloping around the court, the big fella.
Which is it's just always so good to see, and as I said, how much it means to them.
Yep.
Let's talk about NBA and tech fouls, because Pat Bev got one of the all-time greats.
Yes.
After the controversy with LeBron and the Jason Tatum foul, he took the camera up to the referee and said, "Mate, look at this, I have proof." Nah, mate,
See,
not happening.
I love that, just for being unique. He's come up with something a little bit different. I'm not a massive fan of Patrick Beverley, but what I would say is that LeBron was sooking it up. He got fouled. And I love the fact we argue with this, because I love the fact that he's that passionate, he wants to win, everything else, that's good. But he's laying on the ground sucking his thumb. It was overtime. No wonder they lost in overtime. While that huddle was going on, Patrick Beverley's showing, they're working out what they're going to do, and the other team starts with a free throw to start with. It's like, come on.
Question. Dennis Schroeder, after the game, went on his social media and said referees should be fined for these decisions, because the referees came out after and said, "We made a mistake. This play will weigh heavily and cause sleepless nights as we strive to be the best referees we can." So they've taken it to heart.
Yeah, it was a terrible miss.
Should they be fined for things like this, though?
I'm not sure they should be fined, but they shouldn't be working anytime soon. There should be some sort of penalty when you mess up badly like that, time on the sideline. That's too big, and the ramifications are huge for the people involved.
23 and 27 on the season, and let's say 3 games they've had that have been decided.
He's a freak. LeBron's a freak, as much sometimes with some of his antics, but he's a freak at that age to be bringing it game in, game out, and putting up numbers and carrying that team. He's not meant to be carrying that team. He's meant to be second fiddle for the last 3 or 4 years, but he just keeps coming. He's
having himself a season. So is Jock Landale, who, when he gets minutes with the Suns, when he's in that regular rotation, he's playing some great basketball.
Well, I think the other day he had 15 points in 16 minutes or something like that. It's like, something like that,
15 and 15 against Charlotte, plus 15 on the index, importantly. 12 in 23 against Memphis, a double-double against the Pacers as well. But then he has games where he's either a DMP or he plays 4 minutes and just doesn't get a chance to get into it.
That is the frustrating thing about the NBA. Is because you know that he could be a quality NBA player. He is a quality NBA player. In another roster that needs what he does, somebody goes down, all of a sudden he's starting and he's playing 25 minutes a game and being able to deliver. But, you know, you have to have patience in the NBA. I know us as fans, and, you know, I was like that when I was over there. You get impatient. You want things to happen. You know that he can get it done. I just hope he finds a home where he gets those regular minutes and shows that he is really capable at the next level. We've seen it with the Boomers. I mean, he's a great player.
Excellent. It's been such a great start. You forget this is only his second year in the league, and you can almost scrub out last year given he sat on the end of the bench.
Of course. So no, he's going to have a great career. Someone will pick him up and see his value, and they'll be watching. They'll be watching.
Very quickly, before we end our TCL starting 5, there are 3 more spots left in the playoffs in the NBL up for grabs. 4 teams: Tassie, Melbourne United, Perth, South East Melbourne. Quickly.
It's going to be Tassie, Perth, and it will be South Melbourne. Melbourne's like, I know they're hanging on to. They're not going to make it. Their scenarios are all over the place. Perth aren't losing 2. Sydney might not even take a full team to Perth.
Possibly. Perth, they've got 2 home games, but it's against the top 2 teams in the competition. That's tough.
I know that, but they're very good at home. They'll win one of those. Yeah, they'll win. If they were backing up and going on the road.
If you want to know the permutations, we were just on the Melbourne United website having a look through, and there are 15.
They're clutching.
15. I think they've got to beat Adelaide by 46 points to overtake Phoenix or something like that. But anyway, we will see what happens.
But they've been good, Melbourne, to actually in this. And the fact that the play-in has worked, because we're talking about it at this stage.
It's been unreal. This is the
Fantastic.
season that the NBL are sitting back happy that they made that decision.
No doubt about it.
All right, let's keep things moving. Time now to go crystal gazing. It is the final round of the NBL regular season. We'll bring in former NBL MVP and the Mayor of Brisbane as per, Derek Rucker. D, what's happening?
Not much, Joe. I'm ready to go. I got 7 perfect picks forthcoming.
You do, okay. Well, we'll get straight into it then. The round starts with the Hawks hosting New Zealand, who obviously are already through. Hammer, I'll come to you first with that one. Who wins it?
Illawarra comes second in this one, but big shout out to them for the big win they had on the road against New Zealand only, 2 weeks ago, where Harvey hit that shot. He literally was in the centre circle where he hit that game winner. So well done to them, but they won't win this game. New Zealand are on fire now. They are looking good, and they are a genuine chance to compete for a title.
Fair point, I think. Next game, Adelaide hosting Sydney. Not really ramifications on this one. Obviously, just a bit of momentum, perhaps, for the Kings going into the playoffs, D?
Yeah, definitely. And can I have a little bit of a qualifier here? If I'm assuming that everyone is playing their lineups per normal, but if that doesn't happen on the day of the game, Joe, then my picks don't count. And I'm going with Sydney here. Adelaide just won't have enough. I think they've packed it in by now. Sydney by an easy 15.
All right, now we are getting serious. Next game, Perth hosting the Cairns Taipans. Hammer, who wins?
Must win for Perth, and they will get it done. They are too good at home. Bryce Cotton, I told you guys a month ago, he is in a shot for the MVP. You guys laughed me out of the studio, but he is bringing it. He's bringing it in spades, and he's going to get it done in this game too.
The Hawks are up next. They can't obviously disrupt the Breakers, but they certainly can with the Tassie Jack Jumpers. D, who wins that one?
Tasmania, too much on the line. They're trying to build some momentum. Again, Hawks will probably be in holiday mode. And Joe, have you noticed how Hammer just keeps referencing things that happened 3 weeks ago? The life has moved on. The NBL has moved on, buddy. But welcome back to the show.
I like the fact that now you guys pump up Bryce Cotton.
He's on garden leave at the moment.
Jeez, please.
Where are we? Next one, Brisbane taking on New Zealand. We spoke to Jason Cadee a short time ago. He is hanging out for the end of the season, it is safe to say. Hammer, can they get the win?
Well, they play with no pressure. They'll come out, they'll have a little bit of fun, and they'll get crushed by New Zealand, who are serious about going to the next level. This game could be 20 plus.
Now, Melbourne hosting Adelaide. D, hear me out here. If United win by 41 points or more, they would leapfrog Southeast Melbourne into the play-in tournament.
Lock it in.
Can you see it happening?
No, I can't, Joe. Melbourne United will win this easily, but we saw a strange thing happen a couple of years ago. I think when Brisbane had to beat Cairns by like 32, and I think they beat them by like 33 or 34. So Hammer says lock it in. I'm not willing to go that far, but this will be a very entertaining game.
41 is not 32, just saying. And the final game of the regular season, Perth hosting the Sydney Kings, who may or may not show up at all.
Yeah, who knows who they take. And if you're managing your roster, a big trip to Perth, knowing finals are around the corner, you're starting to rest people and manage that. So I would think Perth is going to win this game. They'll be desperate to be able to get another win on the board.
All right, I wish I had a leaderboard for you, but while we've all been on personal leave, no one submitted their tips. So we'll find out from Director Dave who is winning after this round, and we'll come back to you guys next week. All right, Derek is still with us for Points Made thanks to UPCOZ. Now, guys, the NBL has released its finalists for the end of season awards.
Are you part of this?
Part of the, what's the word?
You're
like
just the
initial criteria of putting a list of players together that then go to the coaches and captains.
Okay. So it's fluff, really.
Don't really have a say at all. However, so coaches and captains have voted for Lindsay Gay's Coach of the Year. No surprises at all. Chase Buford, Adam Ford, Modi Maor. Derek, if you are making this final decision, who do you choose?
I'm going with Cairns Taipans coach Adam Ford. I think he has the lowest budget. His team is right up there. He's done an outstanding job, even with Keanu Pinder being out for a large portion of this second half of the season. But however, Shane, I'm not going to argue with you if you happen to go for Kings head coach Chase Buford. Who's your pick?
Well, this is the only category that I'm going to sit on the fence because I could make an argument for all three.
Yeah.
I really could. I mean, when you talk about Ford, I mean, he was run out of Sydney and blamed for everything. He's got this small budget, and then he comes up with this. He's been incredible, he really has. And but Chase Buford's been amazing for 2 years. Sits on top of the table, and we love what New Zealand are doing as well. So, sitting on the fence. I know you've never heard it, but
no
it's happening
choice.
right here. No.
Do you know what, Hammer? I actually really like that you did that, because you're right. Any three of them could get it, and you'd look at it and you say, okay, yep,
I can't.
respect. What about
Joe, don't be trying to boost the guy up because he's having a little bit of things going on right now. Be honest.
I could not choose from those three.
Thank you, Joe.
Most improved: Sean McDonald at the Jack Jumpers, Keanu Pinder, Taipans, Will McDowell-White, New Zealand. Hammer, I'll come to you. You're not happy, shaking your head.
No, it's Pinder. I mean, he's been unbelievable. And, I think the only thing that detracts against his massive improvement, now he's taken himself into MVP consideration, is the fact that his team's done so well since he's been out. But credit to that young man for taking his game to another level. He's going to get paid next year on the back of it.
Dee, what about you?
No, he's not most improved player. Look, for a couple of reasons. One, he hasn't done as much to change his team's fortunes as Will McDowell-White has, who is my MIP this season. And secondly, Pinder, he's out of that running nowadays. That category doesn't suit who he is as a player. He's most valuable player, or he's nothing at all. He should be close to being all first team NBL. I'm sure there was someone else we could have found to slot into that third spot, with no disrespect to Keanu, but I think Will McDowell-White is the guy. It's a weird one, Shane. I see where you're coming from, but
White's great.
What?
White's been incredible, and he's taken his game to another level. But you can't say no disrespect to Pinder, as you've just disrespected him for saying he's not the most improved, when he's taken his game to the level we're talking about him all year as an MVP or All-Star 5 contender, and now you say not up to it.
I just think it's weird that you're MIP and MVP this many years in a row. Like last year, he was nudging on the conversation, in my opinion, for MVP. But you can't just keep being a most improved player candidate every year. At some point, you got to grow out of that. You know what I mean?
Wasn't it JLA last year?
Yes, Joe.
When you started at the level that Keanu Pinder was in Adelaide and how bad he was, and then his big step up, and then his big step again, of course you can be most improved. You can be most improved 2 years in a row if you keep on improving at such a rapid rate, and that's exactly what he's done.
All right, we've got to keep things moving. Best six man, I'm not really sure there's an argument here. Barry Brown Jr., Rashad Kelly, Tyler Johnson. Dee?
I'm going Barry Brown Jr. He's going to be the most dangerous player in the play-in tournament. Mark my words, Hammer.
He's been incredible all year, and I can't wait to see what he does playoff time.
Yeah, I think you and everybody else in the basketball community is flagging him for best six man. Best defensive player, this has caused a little bit of a stir. Antonius Cleveland, Shea Illy and Derek Pardon. A few notable mentions not there. Justin Simon, former winner. DJ Hogue, Jarrell Brantley, Taj McCall. There are quite a few. Bull Qual as well. Hammer, what are your thoughts on this?
Mate, is there a cut-off at how many games you have to play to be able to get in there? Shea Illy is getting there on reputation alone. We know he's a great defender, but he's hardly played this year. His team probably won't make the playoffs. We know Cleveland's great. We know Pardon has been exceptional and contributed to their success. So for me, he's higher than Cleveland. But I want to talk about Bull Qual. And Derek, we spoke about this over a few frothies the other day. He is an incredible young man. His defense, his size, he should be in this list and part of the consideration as well, in my opinion.
Well, Shane, to hark back on our conversation just a couple of minutes ago, Bull Qual is someone who should have been in the MIP conversation. And I agree. He is one of the outstanding two-way defenders in the competition. Shea Illy should not be eligible for this. Antonius Cleveland should not be in there based on his team's defensive performance. So it only leaves Derek Pardon, in my opinion. And I think after him, it was Bull Qual in terms of Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, really interesting one. The Next Gen Award, obviously formerly Rookie of the Year, it's now been opened up to players under 25. The top three are Sam Froling, Luke Travers and Sam Wardenberg. Derek, what do you think about this, new award, and do you agree with the three players that are there?
This is a tight one, Joe. I do like the new concept. I wish they would have brought it in from the beginning of the year. But my winner in this category is Sam Wardenberg from the Kansas Taipans. He's made big plays all season for a very successful team. A guy who I kind of compare to Daniel Johnson. He's got a lot of similarities, Hammer. He is just a very good young player and somebody that Kansas needs to hold on for the future.
I think if Froling had done what he's done this year with a top 4 team, a team like Cairns, then he would be in that consideration, because I think he's been outstanding, but hard to argue with that.
Finally, guys, the big one, the MVP, Cooks, Creek, Cotton, Hammer. Who gets it in your eyes? Finally, Cotton gets the respect he deserves, and he's in the top 3. You guys just snuffed me down ages ago. Yeah, respect. You shut me down when I said he should be a candidate a month ago. And he is, because he is the best player in the competition. Now, whether he's the MVP is another thing. It's close. I think I'm still going with Cooks. I've got respect for what Creek's done, because he's carried that team through injuries, even though his team hasn't performed at the best level. But very close for me.
Man, I don't know who I'm going with here. This is really tough. Probably the closest MVP race since Drewy busted me in 1997. I thought I had my...
It's always about you.
Thought I had it, Hammer. And then Drewy gave me a bad luck, mate, as we got off the elevator together and went back to his room. Anyway, I'm going to roll the dice and go with Creek.
Okay. It is literally about that, isn't it, though? All 3 have been outstanding for their teams, and it's a hard one. Hammer and I were talking about this before the show, Dee, but we haven't seen the Phoenix without Creek at their best, whereas we've seen the Kings without Cooks, and I suppose the Wildcats are a different story altogether, because they've been building slowly all season and are now coming
you know
good.
What, Joe? Because they're all so close. Cooks is the best player on the best team in the competition, and number 1. It has to go to him.
And that could be what gets him over the line in the end. All right, guys, interesting conversation. We'll check in again next week as we look into the play-in and, of course, the finals. Time to go in depth now. Thanks to 2K23, we're joined by Bullet star Jason Cadee, who's been kind enough to give us some of his time. Jay, so good to have you on the basketball show. Obviously, a really tough year for the Bullets. It hasn't quite lived up to the hype. How are you reflecting on it at this point?
Yeah, obviously, firstly, thanks for having me. But yeah, obviously when seasons don't go to plan, it's challenging, and it's one of those things. Expectation is one of those, I guess it comes from everyone involved, everyone outside the club, everyone in the club. And so when it doesn't go to plan, it definitely makes it challenging. But like anything, it's a learning experience.
Mate, I can't believe you've got any hair left. I can't believe you're not rocking the Chrome Dome by now and just getting that thing polished up instead of a haircut with all the stress you would have gone through. But where's the? Have you planned your trip for next week? You've got to get away, surely.
Nothing locked in yet, but there'll definitely be a trip away. It's very much needed. Even the missus said, you need to get away after this season. I said, thank you very much.
One more game against the Breakers on Saturday. Jace, you've had 3 coaches this year. It's been well documented, all of the controversy, I suppose, that's been there with the club. Have you experienced anything like this before in your career?
No, not like this. This has been definitely different to anything I've experienced. I think I said just before to you guys before we jumped on how mentally exhausting it's been. Just so much different things. And I guess, as I said, when there was a lot of expectation on the group, then to just have it go every which way except the way you wanted it to go, it just added to it. And so, yeah, look, it's definitely been challenging, especially from a standpoint of being one of the leaders of the group and someone, I guess, who's been around the league for a while. You're trying to find positives and pull people in the right direction. And as something seems to go your way, everything else falls apart. And so this year really has been just luckless and had a whole heap of stuff going on out of our control, which has definitely not made it easy.
I guess credit to you, because it doesn't matter who you talk to. One of the constant positives they talk about is your form, but also how you've been able to handle yourself from that leadership part during a difficult time as well. As you take that experience moving forward, and now you become a very valuable commodity. And I know you're out of contract. Is that going to be in Brisbane, or what's on the horizon?
Yeah, look, it's obviously one of those things. I guess as a professional athlete, you start to think about contracts and stuff like that. You can't not, especially when I've got a family to support. But the whole time, I've just been trying to do the best job I can for my teammates and myself. I've always been a selfless person, and so sometimes when you get in these situations, it can be hard because I guess sometimes the people who are just out there to get their own, it suits them best. But I've always worried about the group and the people around me, and for me now, it's one of those things we just got to let it play out. I've just tried to do, as I said, the best job possible. And once Brisbane, I guess, find a coach and figure out where they're going with it, I'm sure I'll hear something. And then we'll just got to see how it all plays out. Obviously, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge. And I'd imagine there's a lot of teams looking to do different things this off-season.
You mentioned trying to find the positives out of this campaign. What are they for you? What have been your biggest learnings this season?
Well, the first one is it probably couldn't get much worse than how this year's gone from so many different aspects. But I think sometimes you get caught up in everything else going on, and it does affect the group. But for me, it's how can you push through those certain things and really just let yourself just play basketball and bring the guys along with you that want to do that as well. And I think going forward, the learning is really just sometimes you just got to put your head down and worry about basketball and let everything else figure itself out. And I guess the other part is there's so much importance on keeping healthy and keeping the group healthy, because when you in this league, it's so tight that when you have injuries and then other things on top of that, you just fall behind too quick.
Mate, talk to me about during a game. There's times where I watch you play and I just want to be able to put my hand through the TV and grab you by the scruff of the neck and say, come on, Jace, fire up, start getting aggressive, because you talk about being selfless and that's great. But do you find it hard sometimes to balance your scoring with being too selfless and not looking for opportunities like we know that you can do at an elite level?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably my biggest downfall, but also probably one of my strengths in terms of, I guess, as a teammate, I feel like I've always been regarded in a high standpoint, and I'm always worried about what everyone else has got going on. But it's probably been a letdown of myself in a way, because I've always been that way. It sometimes takes away from me as a basketball player. You're not the first person, Hammer, and you won't be the last person to tell me sometimes to just worry about myself and be aggressive. And obviously that's normally when I play my best basketball, but I just, it's probably so inbuilt in me now to be trying to get other people going and trying to worry about other stuff. But that's definitely one thing I've been trying to work on, and that's just knuckle down, be myself, and then let everyone else follow. But yeah, it's sometimes hard to do because I do get in that way of looking out for everyone else except for myself.
But how do you change that, mate? Because when you say that's how you've been, like you've had some unbelievable scoring games, not only in the NBL, but lower levels and junior careers and everything else. Being able to play what's in front of you and make the right decision for the team is so important, and you're so capable of being, especially when you get yourself to the line, you're aggressive, but then you bring other people into the game as well, and it's a real balancing act, right?
It is. It's a balancing act that I guess sometimes I get too far on the other side of it. But I think for me, it's probably a little bit through the last few years. My role has kind of been all over the shop. Like I've always been a person. I don't care if I start. I don't care if I come off the bench, because I believe that my influence on the group, my minutes will be the same regardless. But I guess the last few years I've kind of been, I'm supposed to come off the bench. I end up having to start. And so I think that's also played a bit in it where my role has been all over the shop. And so it's one of those things going forward. Hopefully I can kind of find myself in a role where I can just be myself. And then in doing that, it'll all work out that I can show the side you're talking about, which is normally what I do in lower levels where I just go and play basketball.
Hey, Jace, you sat out the last game with delayed concussion, and you mentioned before that you're not sure whether you'll play on Saturday in the final game of the season. Is it just me, or it feels like there have been a lot of concussions across the league this season? Is there something different that's happening out there?
Yeah, it's hard to say if it's that, because sometimes it's an unlucky one. Like mine was a bit of an unfortunate one where I just got hit going up for a rebound, but there's definitely been some around and you've seen guys miss games. I've said before that the physicality, especially that you're allowed to get away with defensively at the moment, has definitely changed the last 18 months or 2 seasons. You're definitely allowed to hold and grab, and it kind of works in the way of the more physical people. So that's definitely been a change. Whether that's an impact of it, I don't know, but it's definitely been a difference for me in the last 2 years.
It not only impacts the player, it impacts the game, particularly on the ball handler, when there's so much bumping and grabbing and holding. And they made that change in the NBA many years ago because they want higher scoring. They want people to be able to go and play and create and finish and drive and dish and dunks and everything else. And it feels like it's just become a real slog this year.
Well, I think from memory, you remember about 7-8 years ago, they made that change in the NBL where they stopped that whole being able to grab and hold and kind of, when my first few years in the NBL, that's what you're allowed to do, and it freed the game up. Yeah, there was a lot of foul calls early on, but once people got used to it, it was basically if you put your hands in, it's a foul. If you reach, it's a foul. If you're out of position, it's a foul, and everyone knew it. So you knew what was a foul and what wasn't, and it opened the game up massively. And then the last few years, I've definitely felt the kind of slow grind. And as I said, there's been games I've left with more bruises in some games from being held than ever before, just people holding on and doing things like that. So it's definitely changed. I think it's harder to officiate. I don't believe that it'd be easy to sit there and try and analyse that as an official of what grabbing is allowed and what isn't. So it's definitely something to look into, I believe.
You played your 350th this season. How many more years have you got in you, do you reckon?
I've been feeling pretty good. This is the first few games I've missed in about 8 or 9 years. I think I've only missed one game before these ones, and this is with the concussion. So, look, the body feels good. I still feel very young mentally and young physically. Certainly, different days I feel a bit older than others. But, look, I still love it. I still enjoy it. And as I said, I've been pretty fortunate and done pretty well to not miss many games at all throughout my whole career since coming off the car accident. So, I'd like to say plenty more left in the tank.
Well, I reckon you got another 100 at least. 450 is for you, a 3-year deal. And for the smart executives out there trying to win a championship, they're trying to add a veteran, smart, selfless guy that can get it done. You are going to be high on the shopping list, my friend. So congrats on a tough year, mate. Well done, and love to the family.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Catch you later.
Good on you, mate. That's
all we've got time for. We are back next Monday, though, which means that the NBL regular season will be done.
Done.
We will know we'll know exactly what's happening with the play-in, finals push, all that kind of thing.
Big week. Can't wait.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. Thank you guys for watching. As always, thank you to TCL Mobile, 2K23 and UPCOZ. We'll see you next week.
This is a co-production by News Corp Australia and Closer Sports.